So I think when talking about two different topics, such as child abuse and alcohol consumption, it's very important, I would say, to maybe not like me per se that hasn't been heavily affected by it, but other people that have, and see the connections between them. Because when you look at an estimated 15 million people in the US struggle with an alcohol use disorder, that's very big, and it's very hard to understand why. But and also less than 10% of them receive treatment. This means that less than 1.5 million people that struggle with this alcohol use disorder get treatment. But this also means 13.5 million people aren't available to any of these treatments. Therefore, when people consume alcohol at a high rate, this leads them to make the choices that when they are sober they wouldn't make, such as abusing their children or others people around them. And some things I've learned from an article called Substance Abuse is Responsible for Child Abuse. It is stated that parental neglect of children is a consequence of substance abuse and addiction, and such neglect often leads to sexual, mental, physical, emotional abuse by other people, not just that certain person that's affected by it. It's also people around them that can also affect it. And when talking about this, we need to know why abuse is present in certain households or environments compared to others, and how it affects other people in their households in different ways, and what the effects of it is. And when many people do believe that substance abuse and child abuse occurs because of certain actions that the child has had during their childhood, or certain learning ways that they have learned, or something that the parent is battling. But it is also believed because lots of the time abuse occurs in lower class environments or in poverty like situations. And so lots of people also believe that the stress of constantly, like, say their job, they aren't getting paid enough, or things such as that, and that affects them ultimately to think, oh, I need to go to this substance known as alcohol in this situation to numb the pain or help them in a way. And although this is true, from a study from 1986 to 1997, the number of abused children in America has jumped from 1.5 million to 3.4 million, which is a huge increase, more than 8 times faster than the increase in children's population. So how are we supposed to trust people, those parents, when they are abusing their children, right? And so when first talking about child abuse and how alcohol is a leading cause of it, of the end result of someone abusing their child, I haven't been heavily affected by it, but I see the right and wrongs of it, and it is my job to tell you what it is. And obviously, when consuming a high amount of alcohol, it makes it harder in certain brain areas. It's not like the decision-making brain of your part of your brain to make decisions, obviously, right? And that can ultimately affect not just you, but others in this situation. And in a different article that I've been reading about which is substance abuse can lead to family violence, it states that an early study in 1994 on murders in families, now we're talking about murders relating to this, conducted by the DOJ, found that more than half of the defendants accused of murdering their spouses were drinking alcohol at the time of this violent incident, or their children, the people that were murdering their children, had a high consumption of alcohol. And also in this article, it states that the Department of Justice found in 2002 that the 38% of victims in domestic violence programs also have problems with substance abuse. So that's another thing to look at. And it was found that more than 1/3 of abuse victims suffered irreversible mental damage as a result, and also physical damage, which again goes with the effects of how it affects people. When consuming alcohol, it obviously, restating it, it changes how your brain reacts, right? Memory, speech, such things like that. And these actions behind, whether we can talk about whether behind the wheel, obviously, or making bad decisions such as talking or not thinking through arguments or even abusing children, it results in damage done to certain relationships that, I mean, you can't really fix, right? And I'm here to present and talk about different impacts of alcohol consumption and how they can lead to abuse and how it hurts people. And in the same article, Substance Abuse is Responsible for Child Abuse, it states with 28 million children of alcoholics and several million children of drug addicts and abusers, the number of children and adults in America who during their lives have been neglected or physically or sexually assaulted by substance abusing parents is a significant portion of our population, around 42% from what I've seen. And children all over the world are suffering from the effects of alcohol consumption and abuse from their parents. According to the same article, it has been said that 3 in 5 children experience abuse in poverty households. It is more likely that these kids that were abused in their childhood will now abuse their kids because of their past traumas, and they think it is the only way to discipline their kids right, leading children to become very scared and bristled to be able to not talk about these things, right? And so child abuse is bad enough, as we know from stories we've heard. But when hearing that women are at the highest rate for being abused or sexually abused as children, it is very hard to know that and take that knowledge in, right? All of these innocent kids of different ages and races are suffering because of certain parents. Kids are trying to repudiate their adults from abusing them, but more than less of the time, they have no luck in doing this. When abuse is present in general, most notably in family households, obviously, high alcohol consumption rates are the leading cause, and this results in irreversible damage. And it is our job to see that different situations and decisions happening that people make, such as consuming alcohol in the first place, and we need to report these actions and make better strides to better ourselves as a society and create more knowledge and awareness on this horrible act that people are making. Or what else is our future generations going to think of us because of how the negative impact that we're making on ourselves and their future generations? We need to be able to create a society where abuse is seen as a horrible thing and dealt with right away rather than keeping it on the low and not bringing action to it.